had to drive from Denver to Kansas City for a conference. So that's a good 8-hour drive. It's like 600 miles. And I tell you, Jory, I bawled the entire time. This emotional release I didn't even realize that I needed, because it was kind of all of these years of autopilot. Okay, I guess you get the marriage, and then I guess you have the kids, and I guess you get the house, and then I guess you get the stable career. And it hit me on that drive. There was just this pulsating like question, what is this all for? What is this all for?
All right, now real quick, I want to talk to my aspiring authors here today. If you've ever said, I want to write a book, but I don't know where to start, then listen up. I'm hosting a live writing masterclass this Sunday, and this is your opportunity to stop waiting and start writing. In this session, we're going to map out your book and get crystal clear on your specific message. You're going to take the first step toward making your book a reality. So if you're ready to invest in your dream and finally take action, then head over to joryoneal.com/your_story_matters. Click the link below in the show notes, and I'll see you inside. Welcome back to another lovely episode of TOP, your one-stop shop for all things encouraging, entertaining, motivating, and purpose-driven today. Listen, folks, we got a good one for you today. I am here with my friend Britney Tollinchi. What up, what up, what up? She is a woman who embodies what it means to live a purpose-driven life. So welcome her to the show. What up, sis? What up?
Well, hello. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So we're going to jump right into this. So in case you've never heard of who Brittney Tollinchi is, let me share a little bit about her. She's a purpose warrior. She's also a best-selling author, speaker, coach, and the host of her own podcast, Unjuggle the Struggle. Brittney's dedicated her life to helping people realign with their values, step into their greatness, and build purpose-driven lives and businesses. So we're super excited to have her to the show. And I love your title, Purpose Warrior. Anything that puts women in this visual imagery of just like strength. Yeah, strength and empowerment. It speaks to intentionality and action. So I love it. I'm gonna jump right in this. Can you take us back to the moment you realized like you were being called into something greater? I mean, you had a fulfilling corporate career. She's gonna share a little bit about her past, but you have to understand that like listening to her story at a book launch is what gave me the faith. Literally the faith. I have a bracelet that says faith that she gifted me at that book launch. It gave me the faith to then shift and to go and pursue my own purpose and my own passion. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention that at the top of this show, that if you are an individual who is looking for a little help with stepping into your God purpose, she's definitely a woman that could help you. But I want to know, you had a fulfilling career in corporate, right? Like, what was the shift that led you to this purpose-driven work?
Yes. Okay. So there's something that's coming up for me about even before I made the switch out of corporate. So it was like really stepping into this purpose for my life. And I think that it was the moment where I realized that things were better in my life than what I would have written down for myself. And that happened really early on. I, was fortunate enough to marry my high school sweetheart. And especially for someone like me, I was always really career driven. I was going to be the businesswoman, like walking through Wall Street, traveling all the time. I was going to be in my my big old suite. But my dreams for my life were always, I was alone. I was always alone. And if it wouldn't have been for my husband and the way that, God moved in our relationship, my story would have been so different. So I think about like every time that I just leaned in and I recognized, I just had that moment where it was like, man, your plan is so much better than my plan. Same thing happened, really pivotal moment with motherhood. And I think that's really common too, where it's like, I didn't necessarily think I was going to be a mom. And then it was like, kind of started thinking maybe this is, I don't know, maybe there could be some fun here. And there was fun. And there we go. So became a mother. And again, it was so much better than the story I would have wrote for myself. So now fast forward to, I'm in this thriving corporate career. I love business. I always have loved business. I'm like one of those natural born leaders. I want to lead because that's how I serve people. I've recognized my strengths and that's where I was just in this position where I was leading teams on a global scale. I was winning awards. I like there folks would tell you I was at the top of my game and I wasn't stopping anytime soon. And I had this moment where I had to drive from Denver to Kansas City for a conference. So that's a good 8 hour drive. It's like 600 miles. And I tell you, Jory, I bawled the entire time, the entire way. And I think that what was happening in that moment was it was this emotional release I didn't even realize that I needed because it was kind of all of these years of autopilot, high achieving, like living. It was like, okay, so okay, I guess you get the marriage, and then I guess you have the kids, and I guess you get the house, and then I guess you get the stable career. And it hit me on that drive where there was just this pulsating like question, what is this all for? What is this all for? And in just getting really curious about what is it all for, that's when then it kind of started going, okay, well, what is it all for? Like who do I really want to be? What kind of life do I really want to live? And that's when I just felt this deep, deep calling where it was like, okay, you've done what you're supposed to do in the corporate arena. I need you out of the box. I need you out of the box. You're supposed to have a bigger, grander, more impact, and the box is just going to keep you in the box. And so, long-winded answer here, but then what ended up happening was I fought it because I was like, cool, no thanks. I like my box. I'm good in my box. In fact, the box is like comfortable. The box pays well. The box is awesome. I'm a superstar in the box. Like, no thanks. I don't want to be like humbly go from being on top to being on the bottom. Doesn't sound fun. And so I started in my very stubborn ways. I started trying to just like, okay, well, I'll kind of listen to some of the nudges. So maybe instead of logging on so early in the morning, like maybe I'll just set a better work boundary. And then I saw some success with that. I was like, okay, well, I'm sure I can have more impact by, I'm already really loud, but sure, I'll stick it to it harder, I guess. And I saw even more success with that. So in this year and a half between feeling called to make a different move, make a different choice, get out of the box. And the day that I actually left corporate, it was a year and a half of like trying to wrestle and fight with, no, I want to be comfortable. And well, can't I just stay in the box? And it was like, that grip. And then it finally got to a moment where it was like, oh man, this whisper has turned into a roar, and there's nothing else you can do inside this darn box. I got and it's like this moment of surrender.
Mm.
And there's this complete, okay, I'll get out of the box and I'll just trust like that total trust fall moment. I'll get out of the box. Didn't you feel that way? Like that's like it was like that moment, that
I want to
decision was like a surrender.
I want to acknowledge first how powerful that is, right? Like it's amazing how often we can be in this space that looks so right on paper, but our
Hmm.
spirits know that there's so much more to it, right?
Yeah.
Um, I think our stories are actually very aligned. I think um, that whisper to get out of the box, that you've done enough in this box. This box can no longer, like, the box was no longer serving me. Like,
Yeah.
I was serving so many people in this box, but the box itself was no longer serving me. It was no longer helping me. It was no longer allowing me to be the person that God was like trying to transition me into becoming.
Yeah.
And so I think it was probably around for 4 years, I was putting out resumes for 4 years. So I
Four
probably got
years.
about 400 resumes out, like 100 a year. I had like this target. I'm like, and so I'm like, I think I'm pretty good. I think I'm pretty dope hire. Well, like, why is no one like
What
interview?
is happening?
I don't know. And so I was like, so close to like hiring one of those, headhunters and,
Yep.
resume writing workshops and all. And I was like, do you want to work for someone else? I was like, no, I don't. Really don't. I really don't. But entrepreneurship in it of itself seems so scary. It seems like a scary place. So,
Yeah.
in terms of transitioning, what was the biggest challenge you faced in making that transition, and how did you overcome it?
The biggest challenge in making the transition out of corporate into entrepreneurship. Couple things come to mind. So one of the things, and this is so, I don't know if this is common or not, but I also hold the belief that like I'm never the only one. So the first thing that come to mind was reward systems. I had I just didn't quite realize how much my brain, my body had been conditioned that in corporate, the reward systems in place are you do X, it's plus Y, and when you get this result, guess what? You get the award, you get the promotion, you get the new initiative, you get the fancy trips. And that's what I had been doing for 14 plus years as a top performer. And so then all of a sudden I got into entrepreneurship and I remember like just kind of what did I do? I did something like I hosted a webinar or I did or like I got a book deal. Like I mean crazy things. And I remember sitting at the kitchen counter with my husband and just still like so very much so internalizing and feeling like, oh, it's just not good enough. Oh, I just became a best-selling author. But there's no reward in that. Like and so really for as much as I was sitting there going, I don't want to define success the way that everybody else does. It took me a little bit to actually start, and I would say I'm still struggling with it. Like what really redefining what does success look like because it's so not tied to just a dollar sign or just a get this specific result the way it once was. So that was one of the bigger transitions.
Wow, that's super powerful. I'm going in my mind like thinking of the ways in which I was able to see like success in the classroom. I was able to see, right? Because you help a student, that's real time success. Like they couldn't do this thing, they didn't know this thing, and now boom, instantaneous. Now they know it. Now it's like, all right, I teach and help women shift their mindsets about becoming an author. I can't see that. Like that's not a tangible, immediate result. Like that takes
Yes.
time. And for me, like I'm like, well, am I doing a good job? Is this enough? Am I helping them the right way? And God has blessed it so that each woman that I worked with, like they've gone on to become published authors. They've gone on to feel confident enough to share their story. Like it's there, but it's in the waiting. So it seems like you
Waiting.
used to have like almost this thought of if I do great work, eventually someone will reward me with more money. And,
Uh-huh.
and now you're like,
Uh-huh.
okay, I did great writing and I got the best
Yep.
selling. Like I did this great webinar and now people like that instantaneous is now like confusing. It seems for
It
you. You're like, well,
it
where's the
it
money?
is.
Where's the money?
Totally. Totally. And then you're sitting there and you're just like trying to and how much like it's this conflict because I don't want to I have zero desire to continue to like categorize or to what's I'm forgetting the word I want to use here, but it's like to say that my success or my value or my worth is only in what's in the bank account and to think like and I know that that's a conditioning that happens because for so long, especially in corporate, and believe me, I'm not here to bash on corporate. Corporate served me well. Corporate works for a lot of people. Corporate worked for me. I mean, gosh, it catapulted so much of my life because I was in corporate. What it also did, though, the things that maybe I didn't realize until I was on the other side of it, is just how much like we really truly do. It's so common for us to associate our worth with what a company tells us they're willing to pay us. And that like total mind glitch, it requires new conditioning and some being really intentional about going, wait a second, what like who do I really want to be and what's the value of that in my life for me and for others? And it has nothing to do with a number. And that has been so powerful for me.
Wow. So removing your worth from a monetary value sounds like the work
Mhm.
that you've been doing. And so when thinking about when you help people start these purpose-driven lives, purpose-driven businesses, like what are some of the common struggles people come to you with?
The common struggles are the like it's the it's the fear of it's the lies that we convince ourselves that quite literally prevent folks from even starting. They won't even put a toe across the starting line because, and it's normally the same stuff. It's so number one reason people don't start a business is fear of failure. And then right after that, it's I call it like a lacking mindset. So it's that we convince ourselves we don't have enough time, we don't have enough money, we don't have enough resources, we don't have enough education, and all of that. Like, look, you're like shaking, you're like, yeah, no, you're so right. Yeah, we want to convince ourselves that we don't have that. And then the third thing that always kind of pops up is that comparison. So much information is available for us. We're constantly being pushed, like all of these influencers, we're constantly being pushed everybody else's success onto us. So then you're like, well, darn, like my chapter 1 isn't going to look like somebody's chapter 20. And a lot of people just end up throwing their hands up and going, "Oh, they're already doing it. They're already doing it better. There's no room for me here." And they don't even put the toe across the starting line. What do you see? You've got to see the same stuff in writing. I think it's a very human, like those are human traits.
I think for writing, a lot of it is, well, more so of no one wants to read my story or my story isn't good enough, right? It's a lot of blocks concerning confidence. Like most of it is
Mm,
it's centered around confidence. Time, yes, absolutely. People don't, I don't have enough time to write. I think I spoke to one woman and I said, what do you want to write about? She says, I'm not sure. I said, who do you want to write to? I'm not sure. What impact do you want to make with this book? I'm not sure. I said, okay. She's like, but I've been writing for almost 20 years. I have tons of journals. And I said, okay, great. So you have a lot of content. So your issue isn't going to be in the habit of writing. You seem to have the habit of writing. I said, this seems more of like an internal struggle that you're going to have with picking a lane to write about, picking a person to write to, and then the timing. And she's like, well, I have time to write. I'm thinking I'll finish the book in about 12, 9 to 12 months. And I said, I don't work that long with people. That sounds torturous. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, so like if we start, like say, I don't know, start mid-March, probably be done by May. And she's like, 90 days. No, that's too fast. That's too fast. I'm like, why is it too fast? Because it doesn't align with what you've already told yourself. It doesn't align with the conditioning that you've already given yourself in terms of this is what writing looks like, right? And so even with me starting this business, I had to reframe what I thought business looked like. And I'm grateful that there were people in my life who were like, hey, you should try this. Oh, this London School of Business is like gifting their courses on businesses during COVID. So I was like, so I signed up for like so many things like overseas, Wharton School of Business. Like I was just like, I want to learn, right? That education piece. I don't know how to start. I didn't go to school for this. I was like, no, if people are offering information, even if it's for a fraction of the cost, like I'll pay it. Like I'll gladly pay it and I'll take it. And I think there's not that space so much for book writing, right? Like there's
mm,
no what course are we taking? You can take creative writing, but they're not
yeah.
going to tell you how to publish the book. They're not going to help you with your mindset in terms of finishing the book. They're not even going to help you with marketing the book, right? Like there's so many
Yes.
gaps in the publishing industry, and I think there's also a lot of gaps in entrepreneurship where folks aren't leaning into businesses that are one both profitable but also purposeful, right? Like
Yes.
we could have started any business. Like I'm a phys ed teacher. My husband does art. Like we could have definitely gone into like the children party space and like,
Anything.
crafted and curated these. And I'm like, what lights me up? That does not light me up. That does
A
not
whole
light
bunch of
me up.
kids running around. I mean,
I'm like, we've got four and they do the most for me. And there's just four of them. So I'm not voluntarily going to somebody
Yes.
else's jungle and trying to unstruggle that joint. No, I'm gonna stay
Yeah.
in my lane. So the thing that has always been this undertoned anchor in my life has been storytelling, and it's emerged itself in so many different facets and ways and forms. And it was me finding enough confidence, right? Finding enough faith to
Mm-hmm.
be like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, God, you've called me into storytelling. How the heck is this going to work?
Yep.
And so I
How
think
does this? Yeah.
just the release, that release. So I think it makes so much sense. Like in a world where people are doing all the things, not necessarily the right things for their calling, right? When you coach clients, what's one of the first steps you guide them through to help them gain that clarity?
Yeah, I mean, the very first step in starting a purpose-driven business, like the difference between a side hustle that will fizzle out. Your side hustle is going to fizzle out because it's normally 10 out of 10 times not rooted in this deeper purpose that matches your skills, your experiences, your unique you with a problem in the market and the way that you uniquely can solve it. That's the passion to profit formula right there. You need all of those things. So it starts with identifying and really getting clear on you. Like, what are those skills? So I've got it's called the fire framework, and it helps really people start kind of take those first two steps into starting their business. But part of that, the very first one, F, is find your strengths and your passions. And it's so crazy sometimes, Dory, like how sure, like strengths. So people are like, oh, well, I'm really good at this, or I'm really good at that. And you're like, okay, are you passionate about it? And there is the pause, the death pause, where all of a sudden their world literally flips upside down because they go, oh crap, no, I'm really good at this, but no, it doesn't light me up. And oh my gosh. And then the next swirl that kind of happens is like, well, then what am I passionate about? And kind of like unpacking that. It's like, okay, well, what really lights you up? What is something that you feel like you could talk about for hours? Like what, and you're like, what do you, I also too, like, what are you innately drawn to? And I think for so much of us, right, like this, the world that we live in, it's so noisy. And I think that this is a hardcore belief of my own that we all have that light, that flicker inside of us. And it's these circumstances and the noise that end up literally becoming a blanket that gets tossed over the light. Here's the thing though, the light is always there. It's always there. What it takes though is like becoming aware, getting curious enough to start taking the blanket off. And even just the tiniest itty bitty like light that can shine through, it illuminates and it starts creating momentum. And momentum is contagious. And before you know it, you take off this blanket and you start realizing the ways that you are absolutely deeply divinely created and meant to shine and how unique that is to just you. And that I really believe is where like the magic happens, especially if you decide to start a business about it.
Wow, that's gold. That's gold right there. Um, and so for those who aren't maybe ready to work with a coach just yet, because I know that that's also part, because I have the same struggle. People are like, oh, I know about working with a coach. I'm like, okay, well, enjoy YouTube University. Like, right?
Yeah.
Like have fun
Yeah.
with Google Academy. Um,
Yeah.
what's one piece of advice you'd give to someone listening right now who feels stuck and possibly unfulfilled?
Do something different. Do something different. When I think back to like even to that car ride, I mean, most of the time I was getting on an airplane and going to things. It was very rare for me to have to be doing a car ride to go to a conference. And that basically, I call it, it truly was just like this tiny itty bitty glitch in the system of routine. And that tiny itty bitty glitch in the system of routine is what then like created some space for curiosity. And if you can kind of glitch your routine, glitch your habits, glitch your mundane hamster wheel life that you feel stuck in, glitch it, do something different. If you never go outside and walk in nature, take a 10-minute walk today. If it's you never pick up the phone and actually call someone, you're always a texter. You know what? Pick up that phone. I want you to dial a number today and actually talk to someone. Even the smallest, teeny, tiniest glitch that you can create for yourself, it just creates it's like opening a window in a stuffy room. all of a sudden, like the air, whether you can see it or not, the air in the room moves differently when you crack it open. Just crack the window open and then let that curiosity start to fuel you. Like, then recognize, okay, wait a second. That felt better when I actually talked to someone, or like, hey, wait a second. I actually had clearer thoughts when I was outside walking. Like, just get really curious about that small glitch that you create yourself. And I really believe one glitch leads to the next glitch. And before you know it, you're more alive than the most around you.
Okay, so you're talking about a whole different type of matrix with the glitching.
I'm
And
talking about a whole different kind of matrix, like whole different kind of matrix.
okay, I wanna shift gears a little bit, not too much. I want to talk about your podcast, Unjuggle the Struggle. First of all, the name is brilliant.
Thank
Absolutely
you.
brilliant. Like I don't there's no confusion or clue what your podcast is about. Like it's pretty
Thank
straightforward.
you.
But
Thank you.
what inspired you to create a platform that speaks to the challenge of like balancing life and work and dreams?
Yep. Okay. So what I will say about the name is it was so funny. I so appreciate that you provided that feedback on the name, because so unjuggle is technically, it's not a word. It does not exist. That's not actually a word. And when I kind of like was like, okay, well, but what we're all trying to do is we're all juggling something. What if you could unjuggle? Which again, like it's a process, it's a journey. But even doing that, like every time I would write it down, even in a Word document, and unjuggle would get underlined in red, which, right? The underline in red means you're wrong. It means you're doing something like this isn't how you spell this word. And at first, like I started just getting curious about like, oh, well, people won't understand what it means. Oh, it's not a word. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. And then I just like came to terms with just how much it meant something so deeply to me. And so every time I write or I see my own podcast where it says unjuggle, just the word, it just reminds me that I'm set apart. I'm meant to be different. We all are meant to be different. And sometimes it's hard. Not sometimes, a lot of times it's hard to be different. It's definitely, we all want to be the coolest. We all want to be loved. We all want to be sought after. We all want to be the same. It's hard to be different sometimes. And so it's just this constant, even the name itself is just this constant reminder that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, that I am as different as I am supposed to be. And so I love that. And then everything about my podcast, from the name to every episode I've ever dropped, I actually get emotional every time I talk about it, because it's so consistent. That authenticity, that just like showing up for me. Like I'm showing up for the person who I am, who I want to be. Someone the other day, they're like, well, why do you even have your podcast? And I was brought back to this beautiful moment where, so it's like one of the very first episodes I dropped, and I was sitting there and I was trying to overthink. Like I was
Mm.
literally trying to think my way through this problem. I spent 3 days in nothing but frustration and nothing but anxiety and nothing but depression, because I couldn't think my way through this problem to a solution. And I had this moment where I realized, wait a second, I've been here before. And not only have I been here before, I created a podcast on how I got past it the last time. And so the podcast I listened to, it was like, you're not going to think your way out of this. And that's exactly how it's supposed to be. And so I sat there and I listened to this, and it's like a self-love thing. Like I listened to this woman who I admire. I listened to this woman who has been through some stuff. I listened to this woman who has been courageous. I listened to this woman who has been through some things and gotten out of her own way over and over again. And I love that that's the woman who's inspiring me through my own podcast. And it's the coolest thing, like to think that it, like my podcast about balancing work and clearing your headspace, and like, hey, the self-sabotage and starting a business and taking risks and the things I've learned. It sounds so selfish, like I create it 100% for me, and then what ends up happening, I hear weekly about the people that it touches, and they're like, "Man, I was in the thick of it. I couldn't think through." And I got a text this morning, Jory. Like I'm literally laying in bed and I get a text, and it's a quote from me, right? Like a crazy thing. It's like, "In the surrender, you will find freedom." And he's like, this is radiating in my brain the last several days. Like, I need this. I'm holding on to this truth. Like, thank you. You're like, oh gosh. So it's not, I don't think like podcasting, I think, yeah, of course, are the things like, oh, will people listen? Oh, am I going to say something silly? Because gosh knows what comes out of my mouth. And the thing about my podcast too is I don't edit it because again, it's meant for the rawest version of myself, and which means that it's meant for the rawest version of you. It's meant for the rawest version of him. It's written for the rawest version of my kids. It's written for the rawest version of this human experience that we're all living in, and it's just become such a beautiful place for me.
I have a confession to make. I have a confession to make. So I listen to your podcast. I don't always listen to people's podcasts and I have them on here. I'm be honest with you. And I apologize if you've been on my show and you have a podcast. And it's certain, I have so many hours in a day, but I listen to your podcast. And one of the probably most impactful podcasts that I listened to was when you shared the 7 steps to your confident quit. I was in the process. So we met in November, right? 22nd, 2024. So this isn't a long time of knowing one another. Um, and I listened to your podcast. Once I found out you had a podcast, I was like, that girl's crazy. I love it. How can I get more of that? And so I started
Need
listening to
it.
the podcast and I was like, well, I want to quit. How do I quit? And you're like, 7 steps to your confident quit. I was like, awesome. So,
Okay.
so I'm just like gonna follow the steps. And I wrote my resignation letter December 30th, right? Like we're talking about maybe a month after meeting you. And those 7 steps, I was like, okay, this is step one. Make a date. Like make the
I'm doing it. Make a date.
pick a date. And I was like, okay, I picked a date. Now what do I do? It's like
Step number two. Step number two. Just
so
right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot.
I really like walk through all 7 steps. Like IRL in real life, walk through all 7 steps. And I was like, all right, this is what she said to do next. So I'm just gonna do this thing. And I was like, do you have enough money? Don't do this if like you're gonna like lose your home. And you're, okay, wait, let's secure some funds. Let's make sure he got money, pay for his mortgage. But 7 steps, like, could you walk me through what it means to make like a confident quit? Like, I first off, you shared when you did the book launch, you were like, quitting is freedom. And my brain exploded. It exploded. I grabbed Ron's arm. I was like, babe, she's in my head. Like, she's like, how did she get there? Oh my God.
Oh,
It's like quitting is freedom. I've never heard that expression. I've never heard of a confident quit.
my
I was just like, where does she get all these words from? Like, she's such
words.
like, where is this coming? She must know the Holy Spirit, because like
Oh yeah. Holy Spirit's
my
my
head.
best friend, man.
I was like, how does she know? Like, seriously, I was like, how does she know what like like you were sharing the fears that I like. It was like someone gave you my diary and was like, all right, Brittney, when you go ahead and you're asked the question about why you wrote your chapter, I want you to use Jory's journal and her diary, and I want you to frame your response around her heart. And I want you to convict her so bad that she has to make a choice. And that's what that experience was for me. So I wanna bless people with opportunity to hear you walk through. And you don't have to share all your goods and your secrets and your trades, right? Like, but what does
Yeah.
it mean to make a confident quit?
You have blessed me so much. Thank you. Um, yeah, thank you. So yeah, the confident quit. The very first thing is you have to make a decision. You have to make a decision. And in that moment, it may not feel good. In that moment, you may not understand. In that moment, it won't feel confident. And that's okay. But what happens when you at least just make a decision is you get yourself out of the gray. If you know, we it's like black and white. Your body, when it's sitting in the gray, your mind can't decide, are we going left or are we going right? Your body can't decide, are we going left or are we going right? Your heart can't decide, are we going left or are we going right? What are we doing here? And so what ends up happening is what most of us are in. It's that hamster wheel, it's that spiral, and it ain't going anywhere soon until you make the decision. So even just like there's so much power. Like the folks almost don't even believe how simple this is, but how powerful it is. There's so much powerful in literally just taking a piece of paper down and writing the words. I am going to do this, or I want this, or whatever that decision is, but like making that decision for yourself, even if you don't believe it yet. I know people are like, oh, that sounds ridiculous. I'm gonna write it down. What kind of manifestation stuff's happening here? That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying that if if you get in your own way, which yeah, double hands up here. Like if you get in your own way, the only way, like you're going to give your body, your mind, your heart, your soul any type of direction is for you to just like at least put the bullseye on the wall. Even if the bullseye needs to move, go up, go down, go sideways, whatever, at least put the bullseye on the wall so that you're throwing at a target. So the power of a decision. I think that you experienced that. Like when you're like, you know what? I got to make a choice. I got to make a choice. Yeah. And it was the same for me when, so that year and a half between the drive and the day that I actually made the quit, what I was in is for a year and a half, I was in the gray. A year and a half, I was in the, okay, I hear what you say, but I'm going to kind of do it over here. So and what if we maybe just try this? But okay, crap, that doesn't really feel as fulfilled. And it's just that back and forth yo-yo. But the day that I sat down with my husband, we were doing our 2024 planning, and I looked at him and was like, I have to quit my job. It was the decision. The decision had been made. And then from that moment, it was like, okay, crap. Now, what do I do? And that's the second thing. It's the plan. A plan, even if the plan needs to shape shift, whatever it might look like, the plan at least gives you like a light at the end of the tunnel. You've made the decision. The tunnel looks real dark, real dark. You're not quite sure if there's stones in there. You're not quite sure if there's actually a path. You're not quite sure if it's just full of water. No idea what the path looks like, but you can at least see the tunnel now. And so with a plan, it makes it easier to start taking those steps, that right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. And a plan can make you at least feel, at least can it encourages you to take action. And there's no substitution for action. Clarity comes with action. Oh, did I just drop those words again? Those words, man.
So clarity comes with action. I think
Mm,
taking the leap, taking the
yeah.
leap. So I had lost contact with a friend acquaintance recently, and so when we connected again, I shared with him. I was like, "Hey, since last time we spoke, I left my job and I'm now a full-time entrepreneur, writer, speaker, book coach." And he was like, "Word? You did it? Like you really did it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I did it. I told you I was gonna do it." He's like, "Yeah, but like we talked about it for a while, and I think you're gonna really do it." I said, "Yeah." I said I didn't think I was either. I said,
Mhm.
but one of the things that I believe wholeheartedly that I will never know until I take that first step. Like I
Mhm.
will never know. Like even in writing the resignation letter, I was like, all right, I wrote it. Okay. I said I'm gonna send it this day. And then I sent it. And then I didn't get a response back for like a I was like, did I send it to the right address?
That's
I make a
that's even
mistake.
worse.
I was like, did the Holy Spirit intercept this email? Like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing right now for the good of my family at the start of the year.
Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
quit your job. Um, And then the next day, the principal responds, and her response is so heartfelt. It's so supportive. It's so encouraging. And I was like, that's clarity, right? It wasn't a guilt trip. It wasn't, how could you do this? Like, we're just starting the year. Like, what kind of teacher leaves in the middle? It was, I know you've been called for more. And it's encouraging to see you going after it. Like, right? Like that first step of making the decision, writing the letter, sending the letter, right, was all part of that plan. But I think where people feel called, like that word is right now, it's like trending. I'm called, I'm called, I'm called. Okay. There's this gap between feeling called and then actually taking the leap. Right? Right, right. That knowing,
Mhm.
that pull, that tug, and then actually executing and taking action. So what's one, I guess, a misconception people might have about how to bridge that gap? Like, we're going to talk about the things that you shouldn't do. Because I want them
Mm.
to go to your website. I want them to go to
Yeah.
your podcast. I want them to take your webinar. I want them to download your free. You got a free guide. I'm gonna put it in the show notes here.
Free
A
stuff.
free guide, like, right, how to leave,
Yeah.
with peace, how to
Yeah.
confidently quit. But what is one misconception, like something they shouldn't do, something they shouldn't feel, shouldn't think? Like, I usually only do practicals, but I feel
Hmm.
really confident in this ask where I'm asking you to I want you to bust a myth.
Yeah. Bust the myth of like what's the misconception on how you go from feeling called to actually taking the leap?
Yes.
The misconception, I I want to be really careful with how I say this, but something that's like coming through is like that, how do I say this? It's it's as difficult as you want to make it. That like the actual steps required of you to go from called to actually taking the leap, it's as difficult as you want to make it. You want to fill your brain with all of these lies and you want to believe them, it's going to be 10 times harder for you to get from there to here. You want to, you want to you want to and this is a real thing. Like I'm not downplaying this, but like you want to look at your finances and you want to go, well, this won't work. 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 Well, this won't work is a choice. That's how you're choosing to look at the numbers because sure, maybe like the numbers aren't what you want them to be, or the numbers are uncomfortable, or the numbers are like so it's about the choices you want to make in this process. Um, I don't think that that necessarily means that it's easy. That's for sure. I don't think it means that it's easy, but I think that the misconception would be like that just flat out it's hard. And I would challenge that with no, it's as hard as you want to make it. Intentionally, unintentionally. Like, are you going to lean into the discomfort? Or are you going to keep trying to lean out? Because if you are truly called in the way that you feel you are, you can't avoid this.
Mm,
You can't avoid this, whether it takes you a year and a half, whether it takes you 4 years, whether it takes you 4 lifetimes. You can't avoid this. If it is so meant for you, it is going to find you. So you can either get in and enjoy the ride, or you can kick and scream the whole way through. And again, I am not downplaying it. It takes, it has taken me so much work. I kicked and screamed. I kicked and screamed for a year and a half, and I'm a fighter. So I kicked and screamed really hard, okay? But it wasn't until that moment where it was like, man, I know I'm supposed to do this. So now what? Like I made that decision. I know I'm supposed to do this. So now what? And that I think comes like the gap between, hey, I feel called to actually taking the leap. What came through on like what actually fills that gap, what gets to be the bridge. There's two things that just kind of are coming through. The first one is curiosity. That curiosity will help you start to create that bridge. And then again, if you're really as called as you think you are, when you get curious, you start realizing just how much your surrender is required.
mm.
And so from called to the leap, it requires curiosity and it requires your obedience. obedient surrender. And obedient surrender was not something that that wasn't something that like came lightly for me. Curiosity, I've always been a really curious person. So that one I was like, check the box. I got this in the bag on this. No, it was the obedient surrender. And part of that was like a trust. So sure, I've always had my faith, but did I trust my faith? Did I, did I really believe that my faith could be as powerful as I always thought it had been? Could it really be? And so, yeah, that when I leaned into that obedient surrender, that's when I started to realize that that unwavering faith is so beautiful and so powerful.
Hey, man, absolutely. Listen, this conversation has been a joy. I know our listeners are going to want to dive deeper into your work. So, where can they find you, connect with you, learn more about your coaching, your podcast, other resources?
All of it. Well, thank you so much for, like I said, just hosting me. So I've got the podcast, the Unjuggle the Struggle podcast. And so that is for anybody, whether you're exploring entrepreneurship, whether you're just exploring personal growth. It's just the platform where I show up raw, like I mentioned, and I just give you what I'm dealing with. Sometimes it's business related, sometimes it's relationship related. So Unjuggle the Struggle is really for anybody. And then really like my coaching, what I'm doing is I'm helping people start their own purpose driven businesses. So walking them through, I've got an e-course out there, and then I've also got an e-course with the one-on-one coaching. All of that information you can find on my website, which is BrittneyTollinchi.com. So BrittneyTollinchi.com. Or reach out to me on socials. I'm all over the place.
I love that. Thank you again, Brittney, for sharing your wisdom, your energy, and your heart with us today. It's been a blessing having you on 30 Minutes of Power. People, listen, if you have been blessed, this episode resonated with you in any way, shape, or form, here's what you have to do. First of all, you got to share it with a friend, because sharing is caring. So share it with a friend. Second thing I would love for you to do is to leave a review. And lastly, remember that you are more than your title. You're more than your job. You're even more than your struggle. We are created on purpose for a purpose. So go live it out. Until next time, people, stay empowered, stay inspired, keep walking in your calling. Peace.
Peace.
All right, before we wrap up today, I want to remind you, if a book is on your heart, then this Sunday is your chance to finally take that first step. Join me for a live writing masterclass, and we'll break down the book writing process and get you moving forward from idea to execution. I'm excited for you. I don't want you to miss this. So head over to joryoneal.com/your_story_matters. Thanks for tuning in to 30 Minutes of Power. We hope today's episode inspired you to take action and make a positive change in your life. Remember, your power is meant to empower others. So share this episode with someone who needs encouragement today. We'd love to hear from you. So connect with us on Instagram at 30 Minutes of Power or email us at azironsharpensiron@gmail.com. Until next time, stay empowered and keep empowering others.
30 minutes of power.